Really want to talk about this, okay? This is ridiculous. Like, Nick Viall addressed it once, okay? He addressed my project once. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how like people from my hometown aren't my friends anymore. This was like the start of it all. Hello and welcome back to Catherine's Couch. This week's episode of Catherine's Couch is talking about what living on both coasts of the United States has taught me about myself. Talk a little bit about who I was before I moved across the country. Before I moved across the country, I really struggled with my own identity. I think that's something that I have struggled with a fair amount in my life. Internalized shame around my identity. It probably has a lot to do with having ADHD but not really understanding. I've had this like idea of me going through like a transformation, being like this beautiful, perfect person. I think a lot of that in my life, a lot of that like that escapism and a lot of that daydreaming served me, and a lot of that was creativity, and a lot of that behavior is something that like I love in myself. I love my ability to daydream and to dream in general. But before I moved across the country, I was at this interesting point in my life where I had been going to therapy and making a lot of strides in therapy about accepting who I am at my core. And at the same time, there were so many years of history of me wanting that like perfect start over. I felt like I had become very, very aware for a lot of my life of all the things about me that didn't fit in. Like those always were what was screaming about me. And I know other people with ADHD have the same experience. Like I couldn't sit still. I always had something to say. Like I couldn't focus. And especially like on report cards and as I got older, what would really bother me is like people would think I wasn't trying that hard because I wasn't trying the way other people try. And I was always chasing that high, honestly. Like I remember at one point in high school, I had gotten into AP history because I placed well to begin with, like freshman year. And so then I was in AP classes, and in one of my AP classes, I think AP World History, we would get exams every Friday. We would go over a unit and then we'd have the same exam, and it was really like clockwork, like routine, and we'd have this like packet of work to do. And it got to the point, and this was funny, that my grade in that class sort of mattered and sort of didn't, because I had taken AP US History the year before. I did not do well in it, and AP US History covered US Histories 1 and 2. So the only other class I would take at that age, they were redoing like the history department of my high school, would be US 2, which I had technically already taken. So I was in AP World History, and that was like literally the only place I could go, because I couldn't get in World History. That was like older kids, whatever. I wouldn't even do the homework, and I would just like take the exam for the high of taking the exam and like guessing. And what was funny is some of the tests I would do really well because I would like create a story of consistency in my answers, and sometimes I'd do really, really poorly. Like so much of my life really was ruled, I know, by my ADHD. And what's interesting when you are so affected by like an executive functioning disorder, which the whole point, an executive functioning disorder is a disorder that affects everything about who you are. It affects your executive functioning. I didn't really know what that meant for so much of my life. And so by not knowing what it meant, I had so much internal negative thoughts about myself. And it was so deep I'm still unpacking that. Like all of the positivity in the world, not knowing that part of me was so isolating. And like I had teachers say I was a nuisance. It just was a lot. And so I think I always would dream about meeting people having evolved past these things, which I couldn't evolve past because I do have ADHD, so those aren't leaving me. But when I was younger, I would think I'd evolved past it. I think now I've understood, like, once I've had systems and been a little more polished, that I would meet people and people wouldn't know the parts of me that I might not like, and it could be really fun and new. And I talk about this because when I moved across the country, I sat at this critical point in my life where I was making a lot of strides for myself. Candidly, like posting on TikTok was not something that my family liked. I don't know if it's a New England thing. It doesn't really matter. All I know is me having any sort of like social media presence was incredibly controversial for my life. I did not grow up with being on social media as something that was encouraged. And I think people in New England are pretty private. I also think it has to do with the fact that, like, growing up, I was diagnosed with ADHD really young. I was diagnosed when I was 8 years old, but we didn't tell the school systems about my ADHD ever. Like the first time I told the school system that I had ADHD, I was in grad school for reasons that aren't mine to share, but we didn't tell them and I wasn't medicated. And so it's this interesting like dichotomy of like knowing I had a diagnosis, being told to not tell anybody. Like I told nobody. My cousins didn't know. Like the only people who knew I had this diagnosis were me, my parents, and my brother. And in part of my healing, I was sharing me and my diagnosis online. So I think a lot of that was so different to what my family had experienced and what they had chosen. And so it felt really, for lack of a better term, it felt probably intrusive and provocative to be that way online. And I also, at the same time, like was in grad school, and one of the things that people found me from, like one of my series, I guess, I applied to grad school on my own. They really want to talk about this, okay? One of the classes I took for my grad school was called like entrepreneurship. A very cynical me was like, why am I taking a class in this? But I get it, right? And so it was a class that I think everyone took. Anyway, I go to class, I'm taking school at night, and I'm pretty pleased with the diversity of my classmates, right? And we are told that in this class, what we will be doing is we will be creating a product or a service, be like a t-shirt. And the service could be an addition to a pre-existing product. We're told this on our first day in class, and then everybody is to go home to like think of things and then to pitch them to the class, and then the class would vote on like the top products, and those would become the groups. My idea, and I honestly am going to try and find this when I edit. I just saw a commercial the other day for this, and oh my God, this is just like such a reckoning for me. My idea was for CoStar, the astrology app, to sell their algorithm to dating apps, Tinder to Hinge. At the time, like the Match Group owned a lot of dating apps. I did research that the Match Group, all of those apps actually do make money when people have successful matches. I know that's like kind of a controversial opinion, but it does. They do make money with like long-term relationships. And so I pitched that our idea would be that. And I just thought it would be really smart. I knew that I really liked astrology. I felt like people were talking about astrology more and more, and I thought it could be a topical, cool idea that would get me excited. I just saw an ad for this the other day, and I'm like, obviously, there are so many people alive. I'm not probably the only person who thought about this, but my idea was not picked. Okay, and I was bitter about that. And at the time, I was working in an industry where like I did not feel passionate about. And so one of the ideas that was picked that a group moved forward with was the idea of tools for women. I like can't even believe this happened. I feel like this was a fever dream. And the pitch was tools that women would have an easier time using. I'm actually going to go off right now. Okay. And I thought, surely because we are in a graduate level business program, all of us understand what the pink tax is. And surely this is like an SNL skit. Like you couldn't make up how funny that was. Like the person saying, and the person who pitched it was a woman. And I just thought it was funny. And I didn't know that people would pick it. So it was chosen and mine wasn't. And so I made a TikTok video about that. And I made a TikTok video about that because I wanted a job in a new industry. And I thought with how TikTok is, maybe somebody at Tinder, Bumble, Match.com, like whatever would see it. And maybe I could work there. Like I genuinely I thought my idea was a good idea. Well, throughout the class, we were developing our product. I think my product with my group was like something to clean baby bottles, which is cool, like a way to sanitize baby bottles. I don't know. All I know is there was a group with tools for women, and they kept presenting every week, and it kept getting worse. Like I didn't think it could get worse, but it kept getting worse. And the funny part about this class was that as entrepreneurship, part of our final grade was the ability to research what people thought about our idea. And so as I was chronicling and never using the college's name, I had made it so that nobody could search the name of my school. I kept everything as vague as can be, which, by the way, my school didn't even have a social media policy, so I did not need to do that. But people in my class were like glad. I would question them every group, like someone... At one point, they were like, our product is actually, we're also going to have an app where the app teaches women how to use a hammer. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I actually cannot believe this is a project. Like, and I can't believe that I'm spending so much money. MBA programs are so much money. I'm spending so much money to sit here and do this. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I just felt so upset about it. But I was making these series, and at one of the series, it got more traction. And they like referenced me in class. They're like, regardless of what TikTok thinks. And I was like, you know, if you could just use all of this and get like an A, because I'm doing your market research for you. Everybody else has to do annoying market research. I'm doing real market research as somebody explaining your product, and you have hundreds of comments about it. To the point where, like, I'm pretty sure Nick Viall, actually, you know what? Nick Viall addressed it once, okay? From the Viall, Nick Viall, I don't know, from the Bachelor franchise. He addressed my project once. My professor emailed me and was like, you need to stop or you won't graduate and like you'll be kicked out of, like, something terrifying. And I shared that with my parents, and my parents were like, why are you posting online? Like, it just was like a lot of controversy, and I was like encouraged to take the videos down, which I didn't. And there were just moments where I was making decisions, like people who care about me were like, you know, if I wanted to hire you and I saw you being bothered by like tools for women, then I might not want to hire you. And my feedback was like, I don't want to work for somebody who thinks that's funny. Like, that is so ridiculous to me. So in these moments in time, I was really feeling myself at my core, like who I am, I tend to find who I am when I disagree with people. Nick and I are watching Silo. I love Silo. Oh my God, it's one of my hyperfixations. Dune and Silo. Something about me, I love talking about technology and like stuff. I don't know. In Silo, in the most recent episode, Juliet like does trigger. I don't know if you're watching it, okay? But in the most recent episode of Silo, Juliet is like forgot who she is, and she's asking who she is, and she asks advice from somebody. One of the characters asks for advice, and the character is told, you are the type of person who would ask for advice on something and everybody would tell you to go one way and you would run in the opposite direction. And the most agitating thing about you is that most of the time, if not all of the time, you are right. And I understand this could be sounding narcissistic, but that is the experience that I've lived in my life. Like that, my gut has never been wrong. My intuition, and your intuition's never wrong. Like your intuition knows. Yeah, like in one arm, I was really figuring out who I was. And on the other, the opportunity to move across the country was kind of like this carrot that I had been chasing my whole life to move someplace where nobody knows who I was. So it was exciting. I will quickly share. Let me also talk about the Viall family right now. Okay. So another thing, in contrast to this, I have felt uncomfortable with the feedback I get from people, which is why I ever first posted on TikTok, because I knew that like people in my day-to-day life were not on it. And I've always felt like community online. And so I was sharing my points of view, which by the way, I did not find to be controversial. I was not purposefully controversial. They were just my thoughts about how to talk to somebody who's going through a breakup and how to be more empathetic to your friends and how ADHD is a real thing with a real diagnosis and real medication, and how the workforce can become more accessible to people with ADHD at very minimal cost. So TikTok was like a really healing place for me. The ways was, I've always had a lot to say. I've always loved to talk. I've always had opinions on things. And one time, this is healing. This is going to be healing for me to share this with you. And we'll talk about this a little. We'll talk about the moving perhaps at another time, but we're close here, okay? I want to talk about the time somebody from my hometown, and their mom bullied me. Bullied me on Facebook, bullied me online, harassed me, and threatened to call my college, okay? And it has to do with Nick Viall. Strap on in. Let's set the scene. It's senior year of my undergraduate experience, and I am working at the newspaper because why wouldn't I be? Like, I love to write. I've kind of started to watch The Bachelor, not a ton, but kind of, and had opinions about it just because like I have opinions about pop culture. And my newspaper starts asking me to write a column about The Bachelor. Now, I say no because there was a girl from my hometown who I went to high school with. Hey, she's my age, who was doing like recaps of the Bachelor episodes online on like a website for herself, like her own website, because she was trying to work in marketing. And I was really supportive when she would post these things. She would post them over the summer, and I was like, great job. Like, I'd repost and like whatever you do at the time, and really excited about what she was doing. Now, my college newspaper, I went to Bryant University in Smithfield, Rhode Island. It's a very small school. My Bryant University journal wanted me to write about The Bachelor. And I said, no, there's somebody from my hometown who writes about The Bachelor. And then they said, well, this is Bryant University in Smithfield, Rhode Island. The Bachelor is like an international franchise, and I'm pretty sure you can write about it. But I said, no. Kept getting pushback, and then there was this opportunity. Also because I find, like, I just don't like summaries. So anyway, I skim everything. So it got to the point where like The Bachelor was at the final people. It was Nick Viall season. And another fun fact about me is my high school boyfriend went to college to the same school as me to play football. And I like was dating him in high school, and I know a good amount about football. I'm used to watching football, like thinking of a player in mind. And I used to watch the draft and like in the combine and all those things. So I thought, out of the blue, creative idea, why don't I do, fine, I'll write about The Bachelor, but I will talk about the Bachelor contestants as if they are in the NFL combine for people who haven't been watching The Bachelor, so that they can feel caught up and like have a person that they're rooting for. Really smart idea, by the way. Really good idea. They loved it. I wrote it. It was fun. I'm pretty sure they posted on the Brine Journal, like they printed out newspapers, and then they'd also post it online, and they asked me to like reshare it on Facebook, and I did. I reshared it on Facebook. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how like people from my hometown aren't my friends anymore. This was like the start of it all. I posted it on Facebook, and then this girl from my hometown's mother, like liked my post and commented something. And so did the girl. And it was like something about like ripping off an idea, like copycat idea, whatever. And it was kind of like aggressive. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is ridiculous. What is going on? But at the time I was like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And it was weird. And then I get this text message, and I wish I still have it. I know Brianna does, because one of them was so threatening that she just kept it forever. And it was this grating, like this message, like, hey, you are pathetic. Like, you are a waste. Everybody hates you. Like, you copied my idea. Like, I can't believe, like, horrible things from this girl who did not go to my college. She was from my hometown, saying all these things about me. Like, you're such a bad writer. I hated confrontation. And so I was really upset by it. I'm like, I'm really sorry. Like, I'd love to talk to you on the phone. Like, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I had no idea that posting something in like Smithfield, Rhode Island would affect you when you were states away, all this stuff. And I tried to like make amends. I'm like, I'd love to talk to you on the phone. Like, I really didn't mean to do this, like all this stuff. And I think her final message, which I don't think you're allowed to say certain words on YouTube, and I do not want to get demonetized, because all of the things she was saying was like I was copying and all this stuff. The final message was like, the world would be better if I wasn't here. And that is what she sent to someone she hadn't seen for years. And that she was calling my college and also calling BuzzFeed, which is very funny. I used to really want to work at BuzzFeed because like, I mean, obviously, okay? I'm talking about it sarcastically now because it has been years and this has been traumatizing, but it was a really crazy thing. And it was all about Nick Viall's season of The Bachelor. Now, after that happened, I would like go out in my hometown, not often. And I felt like even if I saw, like I remember seeing the mom in a store and she was like whispering about, it was like weird. And I texted my friends from home and I'm like, this girl has just told me these things. And she was involving her friends in it. And some of my friends like didn't want to get in the middle of it. And that's awesome. And I respect it, I guess. Just the stuff that she said to me was so vile, pun intended, that I could not understand why somebody would be okay with that. Started feeling separated from my friends from high school when some of them like maintained a cordial relationship to her, like whether it's like updating me on, and I'm like, I don't care. Like this person wishes I wasn't here. My first job out of college, I ended up working with some people who knew her. And when they found out that I knew her, I got so nervous and they were like, oh my gosh, we remember when she literally cyberbullied you and we were telling her that was crazy. And while that was validating, it still terrified me. Like the feedback, the negative feedback and how it was like affecting my day-to-day life was like crippling to me. And I think what's interesting is through therapy and in time, I got comfortable understanding, and I was practicing being comfortable understanding that like my opinion is not an opinion other people are always going to share, and people are not going to always like me, and like that's okay. And the people who like me and the people who agree with me, and there are people who perhaps if I'm saying something that I have not heard, perhaps that thing needs to be heard. And so it was really like a full circle moment when I started sharing about my grad school and Nick Viall like said something, because I was like, King, if you only knew how integral you are in my story. That is the version of me who moved across the country. Getting my footing in who I am and what it's like to be me, and at the same time being offered the carrot that I wanted for so long, to start anew in a place where people did not know me. And what a journey that was. That's where I'm going to leave you this week. I love you very much. I'll talk about what happened when I got here, the uncomfortable middle parts, how I became the me that I am today in next week's video, or the next two videos. I'm going to pre-film a video in 2 weeks because I am going away with my in-laws, and it's going to be really fun, but I'm going to be away for like when we usually post. But don't you worry, I won't forget about you. You're very important to me. If nobody has told you yet today, let me be the first to say I love you, and you're always on time for your own life. You mean the absolute world to me. If you've made it this far, please comment, like, share, subscribe. I post new videos every single day on Instagram and TikTok, and you can see videos from me every single week here. I love you. Remember that nobody knows you like you know you, and I will talk to you later. Bye.